We have an update on the Vince McMahon and WWE lawsuit. A Hall of Famer is gone from WWE, and is Tony Khan merging Ring of Honor and AEW? Find out more in this video. Just jumping straight into it, you've seen the headline, you've seen the title. We've got an update on Vince McMahon and the lawsuit against him and WWE from Janel Grant. Vince McMahon has filed a motion seeking a limited lifting of the stay in the lawsuit filed against himself, WWE, and John Laurinaitis. This is according to a report from Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. Now, McMahon's motion comes after Grant filed a pre-action discovery petition just recently with the Superior Court of Connecticut on July 16th against Dr. Carolyn Coker and Peak Wellness Inc., seeking medical records related to the lawsuit she filed against McMahon in January. It was stated in the petition that the records she was seeking and had received so far are incomplete and inaccurate. This is her own medical records that she was trying to get from this doctor, and she's had to do this through discovery. McMahon's new motion has asked for the court to ban Grant from using any materials obtained through the petition in her lawsuit against McMahon, WWE, and Laurinaitis, and the motion has asked the court to declare that Grant may be subject to contempt. In this instance, their argument is that because there is a stay on the lawsuit, she should not be allowed to pursue and have discovery of new documents. Her lawyer has argued that this is not someone named as a defendant in the trial. Yeah,
I don't know quite how this process works legally in terms of it sort of coming off the back of another area of the lawsuit, I guess. But you've got to imagine that Janel Grant's lawyers aren't going to file for something like discovery without a reason. They're seeking something in discovery, which is, why this can often be a very long and drawn out process. It could be months. It could be months before even Vince gets a response here as to whether it's going to be yes or no on, whether these materials can be used. But I would imagine if the materials discovered pertain directly to Janel Grant and the situations involved in the lawsuit, the civil suit, then essentially there's going to be really no leg to stand on, but I don't really know. I'm not a lawyer, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. It's a tough situation to navigate and understand, but from what we know, that she has filed this motion to gain those documents, and McMahon is trying to counter that by arguing that the stay should be lifted on the trial. But moving on from that update there, we do have an update on a WWE Hall of Famer who has left the company.
Yeah, this one coming from PW Insider, who've reported that multiple WWE sources have confirmed that Beth Phoenix is no longer under contract with WWE and is now apparently a free agent due to a contract with the company expiring. Yeah. So it hasn't been a firing, it's just the contract has elapsed, and now Beth is free to apparently move elsewhere. So Fightful additionally adding to this report that Phoenix is said to be in great condition and could wrestle again if she wanted to. And then alongside it, they've reported the idea of her joining AEW has been broached backstage, with one source noting it could happen alongside Adam Copeland's return from injury. It certainly wouldn't feel very out of place. This was obviously the initial phase of Edge's return, right? We saw Beth get involved with that, and it's... I think that for that to happen again in AEW, I'd imagine the story would obviously have to change quite a bit, but it wouldn't feel very out of place to have Beth Phoenix rock up, right?
I think that's it. She's already doing the intro to his theme, so she's the You Think You Know Him, the voice at the start of that. So in a way, she's kind of been there already with his return. It wouldn't surprise me if when he is ready to come back from his injury, if she pops up, even if it is for just a small one-time appearance, or if she is, as it says, in great condition, we could see her getting the ring.
As a legend, she'd be a great get for AEW's women's division. There's no doubt in that. It's Beth Phoenix, for the love of God. I mean, I think, if she can still go and she's like fit and ready to wrestle, then it's almost a no-brainer if the contract can kind of be broached properly and everybody can be happy.
That's the thing. She's been on a Legends deal with WWE, and I highly doubt, and this is speculation, but I feel like she wouldn't have wanted it to expire unless she had desires to go and work alongside her husband again.
We've heard the Legends contracts can be quite limiting in some cases, but quite lucrative in others.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where I think that, as you said, if she wanted to re-up that Legends deal, it probably would have been done. And I'm not going to be very surprised at all if she shows up, to have Copeland's back.
Well, you mentioned the word very lucrative there, and we have an update on another AEW contract that is said to be very lucrative.
Got a very noisy truck.
A very noisy truck outside. Well, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the new contract that Buddy Matthews has signed with AEW was a, and I quote, very lucrative deal, which is one of the reasons why he's decided to stay with the company and put pen to paper on a new contract. There's no word on how long this contract actually is, but we know in the past that he was one of those names that tried to get out of his AEW deal, which Tony Khan at the time was saying completely no to because he knew certain names wanted to go back to WWE.
He's somebody that WWE could just put right into the middle of one of the hottest storylines they've got going on as well, potentially. So it makes sense that they're going to want to tie him down to another contract over at AEW. And, hopefully this... It means good things for his future with the company. Yeah. Because he's somebody who I feel the company's kind of... at times really had a hyper focus for, and then at other times it's like, where's he been?
It's been coming and going, and I feel like that is unfortunately in effect the fact that Malachi Black, as the leader of the House of Black, has maybe not been always at the front of AEW's ideas, and he's maybe not had the want to be at the front of that.
Just from a presentation standpoint alone, and then the bell goes and the guy's like amazing. But I thought there'd be more for the House of Black, and hopefully this is going to be a good indicator of that moving forward.
Well, we know that Malachi's contract is sort of, or could be expiring at the end of the year, with Buddy Matthews being signed to a new deal. Perhaps it'll be him and Brody that we'll see over the next few months getting that the focus put on them. But staying with some AEW and Ring of Honor type news, speaking following last night's Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor, Tony Khan was asked about a potential stadium show in the United States for AEW. This has been a lot of some speculation recently that AEW was thinking about doing a big stadium show. And he'd said, it's speculative to talk about. Certainly, nobody ever thought we would sell over 81,000 tickets at Wembley Stadium. I still can't believe that insane number of 81,000.
I remember being in there.
Incredible.
Like, this is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Amazing. Well, he said time after time, whether it was the very first AEW show where we did the fastest sellout in the history of Las Vegas for pro wrestling, that's something we had never done. I would say never count out AEW in any aspect of the pro wrestling business. We have amazed people from our very first show until right now. It's amazing what AEW has done in 5 years. The leaps and bounds AEW has grown is really an amazing thing we've done. As far as AEW, we've never tried to do a stadium show in America. I do think you can never count AEW out. We're building right now from the ground up. I think we will see an AEW stadium show within the next 2 years. I just don't know what scale of a stadium. We've seen Arthur Ashe, which is technically a tennis stadium. That's 20,000, and they sold it out.
When people say stadium
you think football, right?
Yeah, you think football, you think baseball, you think these cavernous, massive buildings that it would take a bus to get from one side to the other of, right? So I think that's probably what people are kind of looking at Wembley and going, hey, why can't we have one of those? And I get it, but at the same time, I think Khan's got his head screwed on here in the sense that they could just probably announce a show, get it really hyper promote it, and they'd probably still sell well. But it makes more sense, I think, to really start building the company up a bit more. We've heard a lot of rumor that there's maybe a chance we're going to move into some smaller venues, that things are going to be kind of more condensed, and we're going to have more of a focus on the atmosphere of the shows. And then from there, it's a case of build it. And again, if they can get back to that level, if you build it, they will come, right?
Exactly. And perhaps a baseball stadium. Stadium. Then they can really...
AEW,
they will
Field of Dreams.
The Field of Dreams match. Get me that match, Tony. But staying
it's just
with...
the cornfield and nobody can see anything.
And the wrestlers, he's just imagining them there.
Stuff. Just like, slam.
Well, staying with Tony Khan's comments from last night's Ring of Honor post-show conference, he discussed the idea of Ring of Honor and perhaps perhaps rebranding the company or the name of the show under the AEW banner, kind of merging the two together. He said, I don't think it's out of the question to say, and I don't think it's sacrilegious to say, that it would only help grow the Ring of Honor brand if I were to license it, sub-license if it were AEW Ring of Honor. I don't think that's a crazy thing, and I don't think it'd be sacrilegious or bad. I think it would actually be good for everybody. Then I think people would see more of the connectivity that exists between the promotions and what we're going for. Would Ring of Honor, frankly, have a lot more value as AEW Ring of Honor? Yeah, probably it would. And I think I've come to realization as far as the presentation, and that might mean, frankly, a more cohesive absorption of the promotion. Do you think we'll see it rebranded?
Yes, I can hear the anger. I can hear the more dedicated independent wrestling fans of Ring of Honor kind of going, no, don't absorb it, don't, because eventually, the mentality is, well, if it's going to be AEW Ring of Honor, then it'll just quietly turn into just AEW eventually. But ultimately, Tony Khan still owns the Ring of Honor license. He owns, the name, he owns everything. So if it came to a point in time where he didn't want to do Ring of Honor anymore, he could just, sell it off as Ring of Honor again. But I think he's right. We're at a point where AEW is more globally recognized than Ring of Honor, and it's hard for us to see that sometimes because we all live in this bubble, don't we?
Yeah.
We know Ring of Honor. We've loved Ring of Honor at periods in the history of the company. We've been through an absolute dirge with it at other points, and it's worth noting as well that I've seen a lot of people kind of running down the way Tony Khan has ran Ring of Honor, and I will agree, right? It's maybe not always been amazing, but at the same time, Sinclair were hardly doing very well with it toward the end, and it didn't really seem like they cared. It was just something that filled a block of time on their networks. And I think that at least Tony seems to have his heart in the right place with it. Now, is it going to have some teething problems? Yeah, we've seen those teething problems. And as we were saying in the last video, it feels like Ring of Honor is starting to get a bit of a base back under it. And then again, if we're going to rebrand as AEW Ring of Honor, then great. But I think less of a focus in that case, if that happens, less of a focus on it being like a developmental type system.
Right, okay.
And more of a focus of it just being like an AEW adjacent brand.
A third brand. See, I completely agree, but I feel having the AEW branding, AEW Ring of Honor, would naturally put it into that sort of
wouldn't it? Yeah.
developmental NXT where they're like, it's the third brand, but you're going to get a lot of younger talent coming through.
Again, fair enough, because Ring of Honor's style sort of lends itself to the sort of stranger side of wrestling, the up and coming, and it's always kind of been on the right on the very like precipice, on the cutting edge, hasn't it? Where it's like, we started seeing much more technical wrestling coming through. We started seeing more high flyers coming through, and it's sort of, they were always kind of there. So I think that it's always going to need younger talent. But I think that, it's ultimately AEW is a more popular global brand now.
Exactly. So, let us know in the comments below if you think Ring of Honor should be rebranded as AEW Ring of Honor. Yeah, is it sacrilegious? Is it not? I think it's a good idea. Let us know in the comments below. But we have an early access video on our Patreon right now. So if you want to go and find out that, it's patreon.com/cultaholic. It's going on YouTube tomorrow. It's the latest episode of Worst Wrestling Shows Ever. It is SummerSlam 2010. Yes, John Cena and the Nexus. That one. Get on Patreon, watch it right now. If not, it's coming to YouTube tomorrow, and we will see you later on.